Hello and welcome to another video. So in this video we're going to be looking at the Fyreslayers for Age of Sigmar 4th edition, seeing what the naked dwarfs are all about, and are they any good? So Fyreslayers is one of those interesting factions where they're kind of one of the first ones of the unique Age of Sigmar factions that come into it in 1st edition. I do believe they were one of the first to get their own battle tome, and they were very much new. So they're pretty old school in the terms of Age of Sigmar. They definitely need more models. The biggest gripe I would have with the Fyreslayers is they 100% need more models, not heroes, but units. They need multiple new units, different types of things, maybe some war machines, and a couple of different units. Because basically, so far we've basically got 2 boxes of infantry, which you can make 4 units out of, and then a mounted heroes, and then a load of heroes on foot. That's about it. So yeah, they're definitely needing some major loves. Hopefully 4th edition will give them that. So for the battle traits, what we've got is we have basically your own gold runes. If anyone ever remembered them from 3rd edition, they had runes that you played at the beginning of your turn, the battle of your turn, and you rolled the dice, and then you could basically have a super rune. But now we just have runes. There are ways of getting super runes, so we'll look into that shortly. But basically, you pick one of these per turn. So, once per battle army at the start of any turn, so this is in your movement phase, or this is at the start of your turn, you can use this ability if you have not used any earn gold rune abilities this battle round. For the rest of the battle round, friendly Fyreslayers units have to strike first while they're in combat with an enemy unit that charged in the same turn. So that's pretty nice. So you can get strike first if you know you're going to take a lot of charges. Obviously, you kind of need to sort of think about when you're going to use these, which is pretty good. Strike first is always quite nice. Then once per battle, your shooting phase, you can use this ability if you have not used any earn gold rune abilities this battle round. Pick any number of enemy units within 10 inches on and any visible friendly Fyreslayers unit to be the target, and roll a d3 for each target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. That's nice. Splashing out mortal wounds, pretty decent. Could also get yourself that battle tactic of killing a unit that you may need, like slay the entourage, that if you've done a lot of damage and there are maybe 1 or 2 models left, get them out there. So once per battle in any hero phase, you can use this ability if you have not used any gold rune abilities for this battle round. Friendly Fyreslayers have a 5-up ward save for the rest of the battle round. That's pretty cool. 5-up ward save is good. And then once per battle army, your charge phase, you can only use this ability if you have not used any earn gold runes this round. For the rest of the battle round, friendly Fyreslayers units can use charge abilities even if they've used run abilities in the same turn. That is super powerful, especially with some of your close combat units. Being able to actually run and charge. First turn charges, potential, but you are really small and 4-inch move because you're a dwarf. So maybe a turn 2 charge. And then the last, they've got in any combat phase, Rune of Searing Heat. So you use this ability if you haven't used an earn gold ability this turn. Melee weapons used by friendly Fyreslayers units have crit mortals for the rest of the battle. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome, especially with the amount of attacks you're going to get. Next up, we have battle formations, the most important rule in your faction pack, because it will dictate how you build your army. So we've got 4, like all of the all of the faction packs, and each one is probably going to be centered around something element. Now, bear in mind, this is an army with very few kits, so very few things. So we'll have a little look. So first, we've got the Berserker Kindred. So add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Fyreslayer infantry units that charged in the same turn. That is dope. That is so good. +1 to wound on the turn that you charge is amazing. Really like that. Then we got Bulwark of the Molten Stone. Add 1 to the save rolls for friendly infantry units while they are wholly within friendly territory. It's pretty good for the first turn, but after that you're not going to really be in it. You're a close combat army, so you're going to want to be in your opponent's face, so you're not really going to pick that one. Skills of the Voltarax is add 2 to the health characteristics of friendly Magmadroth units. If you're going Magmadroth heavy, +2 wounds is always quite nice for them. And then Lords of the Forge, add 3 to the control score of friendly Fyreslayer heroes. In addition, the control score of friendly Fyreslayers heroes cannot be modified by enemy abilities. That's okay, but only affects your heroes. Now, you do have a lot of heroes in your army, but you're not going to have as many as you want. Personally, I would probably go for Berserker Kindred, because +1 on the charge to wound on the charge is amazing. And if I was going for a lot of Magmadroth, I'd go for the health on that. The other two were a bit meh, but the two on the left are definitely the best ones. But Berserker Kindred is pretty much what you're going to use. Next up, we got Hero Traits and Artifacts of Power. So, Inherence of Grimnir. So, obviously, these are for your heroes that are non-unique. Obviously, all of them are not named, because I don't think Fyreslayers have any named characters whatsoever. So, you can add these to any of them. So, Grimwrath Berserkers, the newer Berserker might come in handy for them. So, Blood of the Berserker. So, add 1 to the charge rolls for friendly Fyreslayer units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. That's pretty good, because you're going to want to have a hero charging in with them. So, yeah, couple of big blobs of Hearthguard Berserkers and a big Grimwrath Berserker, or one of the newer guy that's jumping off the rock. One of them coming in, and then you get the +1 charge. Pretty sweet. Ashbeard. If this unit is not a priest, they have priest 1, and this unit is already a priest. Add 1 to the chanting rolls. Cool. That's really nice if you're going to go priest heavy, which you will, because you don't have wizards. And then the last one, if this unit is in combat with an enemy that has strike first, this unit has strike first. And if the unit is in combat with an enemy unit that uses all that attack, I'd want to hit rolls for this unit's attacks for the rest of the turn. Nice. So, if you come up against strike first, you have strike first, which they knock each other out. And if they go all out attack, you get all out attack. So it's pretty cool. Artifacts of Power. Ash Cold Rune. So until the start of your next turn, friendly infantry units cannot be targeted by shooting attacks while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Cool. That's nice, especially if you're coming up against a shooting army. Droth Helm. Add 1 to the hit rolls for companion weapons used by friendly Fyreslayers units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. That's really good if you're going to go for Magmadroth heavy. You stick that on one of your heroes, couple of your Magmadroth stay together, and you can kind of buff the actual Magmadroth itself with that, which is quite nice. And then the last one is Droth of the Finest Magma Hall, which is a once per battle. So it's going to be situation when you pop it, but you add 3 to the attack characteristics of this unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. +3 attacks is nice. You're going to want to obviously put it on a unit that's really going to get stuck in there and do some major damage, and those extra 3 attacks are going to be good. Personally, I kind of like the shooting one. Is kind of good. And for the hero traits, I really like the +1 charge, and the fiercely competitive is really quite funny, especially if you come up against like a real mirror match there, which is quite good. So next up is the Prayer Law. Fyreslayers don't have wizards, obviously because they're dwarfs, but they do have a lot of priests. So you have a Prayer Law. So, in your hero phase, with a chanting value of 4, pick a friendly Fyreslayers priest to chant the prayer, pick a visible friendly Fyreslayers unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target, then make a chanting roll of a d6, standard. So subtract 1 from rune rolls for attacks that target that friendly unit until the start of your next turn. Nice. And if it's a chanting roll of 8+, also subtract 1 from Ren characteristics for attacks that target that friendly unit until the start of your next turn, which is pretty good. So it's wholly within 12 inches, all right? But you're going to have units, heroes with your frontline fighting units. This is also an ultimate prayer, so you can do this more than once. So you can have multiple priests chant this and put it onto multiple of your units, which is kind of nice. If you're going to be going in, you can prep this quite nicely. Getting -1 to so -1 to be moving, essentially giving yourself Mark of Nurgle and having -1 Ren. This was a combo that Chaos Slaves to Darkness used a lot in the last edition with Nurgle. You had the Nurgle and then the Nurgle banner, which gave you -1 to wound, -1 Ren, and it was super tough to deal with. You're able to kind of do the exact same thing on essentially a chanting roll of an 8+. If you build it up with your chanting rolls, so you chant on the first turn, then you don't really pop this until turn 2, you could essentially have that 8 stored straight away and then put it straight onto a big unit where you know that they're going to be in combat this turn. You really want them to survive. You're going to be able to have that -1 to wound and then the -1 coming in. You're a naked dwarf, so your save isn't amazing, but that would be really handy. And it would really sort of tip the balance kind of into your sort of side of the fight, which would be kind of cool. So there's the prayer, Gringras Fury. Pick a friendly Fyreslayers priest to chant this prayer, and then pick a visible friendly Fyreslayers infantry hero, hold you within 12, then make a chanting roll. So the target can use 2 fight abilities this turn. Really nice. After the first is used, however, the target is strike last. So you use the one, and then your second one you use last. So you end up with strike last, which is kind of cool. But if it's done, if on an 8+, add 1 to the wound rolls for the target's combat attacks for the rest of the turn. That's nice. Again, if you've got like a mounted hero, it's a friendly hero. So if you've got an infantry hero and you're going to have a couple of them, you can really sort of dump in. If you tie this in with your +3 attacks for once per battle artifact, that could come in handy. You're going to be fighting twice. You could kind of turn yourself into a mini Gotrek, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's a nice little combo you could pull off. So the last one is the Wrath of the Vulturex. So pick a friendly Fire Druid's Priest, pick a visible Magmadroth, hold you within 12, do a chanting roll. For the rest of the turn, the battle damage ability has no effect on the target, and add 1 to the attack characteristics of the target's companion weapons. If the chanting roll is an 8+, add 1 to the attack characteristics of the target's companion weapons for every 4 damage point this target has. Okay, it's pretty cool. So, personally, I like the first 2. The second one is okay. But the first one and the second one is pure mint, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, the Fyreslayers have their own manifestations. So they have their own. They're obviously priests. They're priesty ones. So they're prayers. So basically, they're all done basically on 4s, apart from the Infernal, which is done on a 6. And they set up, the firewall is set up wholly within 12 inches of the chanter. The Infernal is set up wholly within 12 inches of the chanter and 9 inches from the enemy. And the Flame Spitter is wholly within 12 inches of the caster. And we'll go through them now. So the Molten Infernal is a 5-up save, movement 8, health of 10, banishment of 7. And it has the Raging Torrent of Lava, so 8, range of 8, 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, -2 rend, d3 damage, shoot in combat, and then Molten Claws. 6 attacks, 4s and 2s, -1 rend, d3 damage, crit mauls. And it's flame scarred. So pick an enemy unit that has any damage allocated to it this turn by this manifestation. Subtract 1 from rune rolls for that target's combat health until the start of your next turn. Pretty cool. So it kind of does quite a bit of damage and it moves. It's a big lava monster. Kind of cool. Next we have the Runic Firewall. 3-up save, 6-up ward. Doesn't move. Has a health of 8 and a banishment of 7. And pick up to 3 enemy units within 6 inches of this manifestation to be the target. Roll a d3 for each of the target. On a 2+, inflict equal amounts of mortal damage on the target to be equal, and then subtract 3 from the target's control score. Kind of cool. Yeah, throw it out into them, and then start popping out mortal damage to them. And this is in your enemy movement phase. So they're doing that, and if they're within 6 inches of this in their enemy movement phase, that's kind of cool. What I would generally do with this is I would try to cast it behind them. Once they've come in to charge and they're like 3 inches away from you, try to get it in behind them. And then, because I think this one can be dropped, and there's no restriction on this for being within 9. So I would try to drop this in behind them so they can't really get out. You've kind of got that barrier and you're doing the mortal damage to them in your enemy movement phase, which is kind of cool. So yeah, and you subtract from the control score as well. Then we have the Flame Spitter, which is kind of cool. I used to always like this one in 3rd edition because it had like 12 a dice, but not as many this time. It doesn't move. It has a 6 health, 6 save, 5 health, 7 banishment. 18-inch range gun. It basically is your main shooting profile in your entire army, because it's got like an 18-inch range, which is kind of cool. 8 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 rend, 1 damage, and crits cause 2 additional hits. So you add 1 to hit rolls for this manifestation shooting attack if the target has 10 or more models, and add 1 to the wound rolls, hit and wound rolls instead if the target has 15 or more. Really good for splattering hordes. I kind of like it. It's like a fiery Gatling gun that you summon in. Really cool. All right, let's jump into the meat of the faction. The Ulrich Runefather on Magma Droth, which we will get the points up now. It's handy having the app but not open when you start recording. Such a pro YouTuber move right there. So make sure you subscribe for that proness. Right, battle profiles, heroes. Runefather on Magma Droth comes in at 350 points, which is pretty good. Obviously, there's a 6-up ward save, which I think is a thing throughout the army, which is quite nice. 4+ save, movement 10, health of 14, control of 5, which is cool. They have a Searing Roar, so Fire Sting Roar, which is like breathing fire. Range of 10, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, D3 damage, anti-infantry, and a companion. Cool. Then you got the weapons, so you got the Latchkey Great Axe, which is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 rend, 3 damage, pretty good. And then you've got the Claws and Horns, which does downgrade. Again, there is a prayer to stop this from downgrading from 6 attacks, but can drop to 4. 4s and 2s, -1 rend, 2 damage, companion. And then the Blazing Maw, which is 2 attacks, 4s and 2s, 2 rend, 3 damage, companion. Now, obviously, those 4s to hit can be improved with all-out attack to a 3. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much how that happens. So you got a lot of red. You got a lot of in your combat phase or any combat phase and a passive ability. So a lot of red on this. So obviously a lot of combat because this is a combat monster. So once per turn, army, any combat phase, Raging Inferno. Pick an enemy unit that is within range to be the target and on a 3+. Subtract 1 from saving rolls for that target for the rest of the turn. Nice. That's your Rampage. So next you've got once per battle, army, your combat phase, Warrior Kings. So for the rest of the turn, add 1 to the attack characteristics and melee weapons used by friendly Fyreslayer units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Obviously, it's once per battle, so you're going to pop this once you go in. This is the kind of unit that you want at the front. Maybe you want that nice prayer with the strike first on it, or maybe you want that prayer where you're -1 to wound and -1 to rend to hit on it. And also, you might maybe want the other prayer on it with the strike, the fighting twice, which would be kind of cool. And then having the artifact on it here with the +3 attacks. Now, that would only affect the Latchkey, so you'd have 7 attacks with the Latchkey. Doesn't affect the companion attacks, unfortunately. But an all-out attack, striking first, and then having all your rebuffs on it, and then triggering the additional attacks on your Fyreslayers around you would be kind of neat. So yeah, your Ulrich Runefather is your combat monster of this army. Or is he? So next you've got Volcanic Blood. So if you make an unmodified save roll of a 1 from an attack that targets this unit, inflict 1 mortal damage after it's been resolved. So basically, if you roll a 1 on your save, you spit mortal wounds back on the enemy, which is kind of cool because they're filled with blood. Next up, we have the Ulrich Runeson on a Magmadroth. The Ulrich Runeson is 300 points. This is kind of like your poor man's hero. He's not a Runefather, he's not your big boy, but he's kind of the same. Again, it's the same stat line, he's just got slightly less health than the Runefather. Same Roaring Breath, Fire-Stroking Breath. And he has a different weapon. He has the Ancestral Weapon, so he has 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, only 2 damage, but it's anti-monster +1 rend. And then obviously the Magmadroth is exactly the same. So passive, vying for glory. Each time this unit destroys a monster, add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit's ancestral weapons for the rest of the battle. So you're monster hunting and you're going to start getting more attacks. But let's be fair, you're probably not going to. And then dominating the roar, pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit to be the target. And if this is a fewer the damage points than the target, subtract 10 from its control score. That's kind of cool, but yeah. And then obviously Volcratic Blood. For the extra 20 points, I would rather take a Runefather, to be fair. But if points are tight and you want another Magmadroth, then there's this guy. So next up, we have the Rune Smiter on a Magmadroth. And the Rune Smiter comes in at a 340 points. Yeah, 340 points. So again, pretty much same stat line as the others. Fire Breath's the same, but he has a Latch Axe, which is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 and 2 damage, and then the Magmadroth is the same. But you have in your hero phase, pick a friendly Fyreslayers unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target, and roll a dice. On a 3+, add 1 to the wound rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. Nice. I like that. And then obviously pick an enemy unit. Now, bear in mind, now if you're using the battle formation that gives you +1 to wound on the charge, and you do this, you can't get +2 to wound. So you can only ever get +1. But this would work in your next battle round if you're still in combat and you haven't charged. You can pop this on that unit and continually get that +1 to wound. Just bear that in mind. So once per turn in your combat phase, any combat phase, lashing tail, pick an enemy unit in combat with this to be the target. Roll 2d6. If the roll is equal to or less than the number of models in the target unit, inflict d3 + 3 mortal wounds on the target. Nice. And then obviously Volcratic Blood as well. You are a priest 1 and you have a ward save of 6. So if you want to go all infantry and you don't want to take Magmadroths because you're mental, you can have an Ulrich Runefather on foot for 160 points. Now the kit is kind of cool. The kit allows you to build 3 types of versions of the model. You can have a Runefather on it, you can have a Rune Sun on it, or you can have a Rune Smiter on it. And it also gives you the parts to give the heroes that you're not using on foot. So obviously you get 1 set of legs. So it's kind of a versatile kit. It's kind of handy. So if you're using the Magmadroth for a Runefather, you can end up having a Rune Sun on foot, a Rune Sun on foot, and even a Rune Smiter on foot as well, which is kind of cool. So pretty cool kit that you're kind of getting 3 heroes out of it potentially. So this guy obviously is 160 points. He is a war master, which is interesting. Hero, infantry, ward of 6, 5 up save, movement of 4. You're a dwarf, 5 health, 2 control, latch key, pretty much exactly the same as the one that's on the mount. But then you have 2 different abilities. So once per battle army deployment phase, you can pick a non-hero infantry unit within this unit's combat range to be the royal retinue for the rest of the battle. While the royal retinue is wholly within 6 inches of this unit, add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made by the royal retinue, and this unit has a 4 reward. So basically, you can give yourself a bodyguard unit. You kind of want it, and they get +1 to hit, which is kind of cool. And then commanding presence, add the current battle round number to the control score for any Fyreslayer infantry units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit for the rest of the turn. Yeah, cool. So, that's kind of nice. I would be really cool if they actually come out with a proper Ulrich Runefather miniature. That would be awesome. But yeah, Naked Dwarf makes everything really harder on the ground, which is quite cool to see. Of course, if you've got an Ulrich Runefather on foot, you're going to have a Rune Sun on foot. And a Rune Sun comes in at 130 points. Cheap. But there are other heroes that you're going to take rather than him. Again, pretty much same stat line as the Runefather. He's 5 save, 4 move, 5 health, 2 control. He has Ancestral Weapons, which is basically 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 and 2 damage. Exactly the same as the mounted version. He does have 2 rules. So he has Dauntless Assault. So pick a friendly non-hero infantry unit, Hearthguard Berserkers, that has not used a fight ability this turn. And you can then use this ability within combat range. Pick the target to be the fight immediately after the fight ability is used. So you kind of do what Chaos Lords do. So you run in with this unit within 3 inches. This unit fights. Then your Hearthguard Berserkers immediately fight straight after. So just make sure you do it in that order. And it kind of allows you to do 2 units to fight, which is kind of cool. And then he has Fearless Charge. So if this unit charges turn, for the rest of the turn, add 1 to the charge rolls for friendly Fyreslayer infantry units while they're wholly within 18 inches of this turn. So you need to charge first with this dude. He charges first, then he pops an 18-inch +1 charge roll, which is kind of nice. But 130 points, is he worth it? Maybe. Next up, we have the Rune Smiter on foot, and the Rune Smiter is 120 points. Again, same stat line as the others. He's a Priest 1, Ward of 6. His Latch Axe is exactly the same, and he has 2 hero abilities. So, in your deployment phase, you can pick this unit. You can pick this unit up to 1 unit in its regiment. If either unit has been deployed, set up those in reserve in the underground. And then in your hero phase, you can pick this unit that is in the underground, set it up anywhere on the battlefield, more than 9 inches from all enemy units, and set up the other one that was in the underground with it, if any, wholly within 6 inches of this unit, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Now, this, you can't move. Alright, so you're setting units up so you can't move, but you are setting them up in your hero phase, which is kind of cool. So you might be able to, you know, get out, pop out a couple of manifestations. We've only a Priest 1, so you're going to be able to do at least one. They might be able to get you, you know, some stuff in the backfield and some cool stuff like that. So yeah, it could be quite interesting. Okay, so we got the Ulrich Rune Master, and this guy is an auto-include. You're going to have a Rune Master in your army for 190 points, and the reason why is because of his main Ungold ability. So he's a Priest 1, same stat line as the others, and he has a Brazen Staff, 3 attacks, 3 to the 3s, -1 rend 2 damage, and then he has a passive ability. Each time a prayer chant by this unit is answered, this unit gains a magma power token. Alright? This is important. So, reaction. You declared an Ungold or Rune ability. Remove 3 of this unit's magma power tokens. If you do so, apply the effect below that corresponds to the Ungold ability that was used. Alright? So, all of your runes in your battle traits, essentially, it's going to be able to do stuff with. So if you do the Rune of Fury, so for the rest of the battle, add 1 to the wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Fyreslayers units while they have strike first. Alright, nice, you get +1 wound. Next, add 1 to the save rolls for friendly Fyreslayer units for the rest of the battle round. That's the one where you get the 5 ward. Then add 1 to the rune rolls and charge rolls for friendly Fyreslayers for the rest of the battle round. It's kind of cool. It's the run and charge one, I believe. And then add 1 to the range characteristic melee weapons used by friendly Fyreslayers units for the rest of the battle round as well. And then the last, increase the range of the Rune of Foresight ability to 16 inches. Now, this is kind of important because if you do this right, and each time you do a chant, and you are going to do a chant, and I believe that's either says Priest 1 or Priest 2, you're going to pop out your priesty stuff. You know, you're going to do your prayers. And you're going to build up these. So later on in the game, when you really need to get maybe that +1 rend and stuff like that, you're going to pop it, and then there's no dice roll. You've just got to spend those magma tokens. Maybe it could be a little, because you can't do it on turn 1 because you're not going to do it that way. And it would be kind of cool if there was maybe a terrain piece or something like that that allowed these magma tokens to get done quickly. But we may well see how that pans out as we go through the faction pack. Now for the trusty Battlesmith. This model was an auto-include in every army in 3rd edition. But is he now? He's 110 points. He's got 6 up ward. Standard stat line for a Fyreslayer. Apart from he has a control of 5, which is cool. He has an Ancestral Battle Axe, which is 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend 2 damage. Then he has 2 passive abilities. So, first one, ignore the negative modifiers to the control scores of friendly Fyreslayer units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Nice. And then if a unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit rallies, you get 3 dice, an additional 3 dice. So you get 9 dice rather than 6 for your rally, which is kind of cool. Other than that, that's all he does for 110 points. And we're coming up to the big hitters, the Grimwrath Berserker. And the Grimwrath Berserker are amazing at 110 points. They are obviously a standard stat line for a Fyreslayer, 6 up ward. He has his Firestorm Great Axe, which is 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 rend, 2 damage, and then he has 2 abilities. So in the deployment phase, you pick an oath. So pick one of the following oaths that unit swears to. So you will guard them with your life. While this unit is wholly within 6 inches of another friendly Fyreslayers hero, add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's attacks and add 1 to ward rolls for this unit. Nice. If a friendly Fyreslayers hero wholly within 6 inches of this unit is destroyed, this no longer has an effect. Okay, sad times. And then I will not stop, so you add 1 to the charge rolls for this unit and add 1 to the save rolls for this unit while it is in combat. If this unit uses a retreat or rally ability, this will no longer have apply. You're never going to do that. So you're always going to go for I will not stop. So you get +1 to your charge rolls and +1 to save rolls while you're in combat. +1 to save means you have a 4-up save and a 6-up ward. And you're always going to get +1 to your charge. Yes, like these things are nuts, which is cool. And it also has the once per battle in your ability to fight twice. So you can charge in, wreck, and then fight again on strike last. I love them, and for 110 points, they are dirt cheap. So next up, we have the Ulrich Flamekeeper, which is one of the newer units that come out in the back end of 3rd edition. And the Flamekeeper is 130 points. Again, same stat line as all the others. He has a Brazier Axe, 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend 2 damage. And then he has a once per turn army, your hero phase. Master Rune. So if any friendly units have been destroyed during the battle, pick 1 friendly Fyreslayer infantry unit only within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or less than the number of Fyreslayer units that have been destroyed during the battle, pick one of the following effects to apply until the start of your next turn. The target has a 5-up ward, the target has +2 to its charge rolls, or the target has add 1 to the damage characteristic of the target's melee weapons. So if a unit dies, you pick a unit wholly within 12, alright? You roll a dice equal to or less than the number of Fyreslayers that have been destroyed during that battle, and then pick one of the following effects. Okay? Now, it seems to be that the death seems to be board wide, but you have to pick a unit wholly within 12 of him. So if a lot of infantry and a lot of chaff are getting killed, but you do have chaff and you've got pretty cheap chaff, you can then start adding damage characteristics for the weapons. So yeah, you could essentially send a load of Volkite Berserkers in, get killed, you add all of that up, and then you start adding the damage characteristics on your Grimwrath Berserkers and stuff like that, and then really make them cool. He's pretty cheap. I mean, that's a lot easier than it was in the last one. In the last edition, his rules were mental. But for 130 points, yeah, it's kind of cool. Are you going to use it a lot? Probably not. But yeah, it's kind of a cool mechanic. It's kind of interesting. And he is a cool looking model. Next up, we have the Doom Seeker. And the Doom Seekers are 110 points. Standard stat line, Doom Seeker weapons, 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend 2 damage. Then you have two abilities. So in the deployment phase, pick an enemy unit to be this unit's quarry, and you can pick a unit that has been deployed in reserve. Add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by this unit that target its quarry. If this unit is destroyed while it is in combat with the quarry, inflict 3 mortal damage on its unit's quarry immediately after the ability has been that destroyed this unit has been resolved. And then passive, add 1 to the damage characteristics of unit's melee weapons while it has 1 damage point. Add 2 damage characteristics to this melee weapons instead while it has 2 damage points. Yeah, great. So you can potentially be damage 3 or damage 4. It's a nice model, but they're not great. And they weren't great in the last edition either. Make Doom Seekers great again if they ever were. Cool model, but just not great. Now, what is great is this little hairy bastard. This guy, the Grimhold Exile, comes in at 150 points. He's got a 6-up ward save. He has 6 health, 5-up ward save, movement of 4 and control of 2. He has fiery rune hammers, which are 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 rend, 2 damage. And he has a once per battle ability in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. roll a number of dice equal to the target's health characteristic, and for each 4+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. Nice. And then he has once per battle in your hero phase, pick up to 3 friendly Fyreslayers infantry units wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target, and they can reroll charges for the target for the rest of the turn. Nice. And he's just going to absolutely beat stick things. 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 Rend 2 damage. Pretty damn good. I like them. These and Grimwrath Berserkers are my 2 favourite sort of combat heroes, and they do quite a like. The re-rolling charges is really good, especially with the charge modifiers that you're going to be able to get anyway. Having a re-roll on that is always quite handy. So it's only once per battle, and you can pick up to 3 of them. But if you go in there and you've got a couple of these going in, you know, you can do one, then do one again later. Well, it's once per battle, so you can only do it once. But yeah, one of these guys is going to do the work, and you're going to be able to do some nice stuff with it. I like them. He looks really cool as well. You know, big hair flowing in the wind coming off his combat rock with his 2 big hammers. What is not to love about a naked guy with a big ginger mohawk? Now we're getting into the units, and we don't have many units in the faction. So they have Volkite Berserkers with bladed sling shields. These guys, obviously, when you get your Volkite Berserkers, you can build them with dual wielding, or you can give them shields. And that's basically what they've done, is rather than just have 1 war scroll and options, they've just split it into 2 war scrolls. Kind of a lazy way of doing it, rather than just give us more units, which would be the better way. These guys are 150 points for 10, so you're looking at 300 points for a reinforced unit. They obviously have a 6-up ward save, a 5-up save, movement of 2, health of 2, which is kind of nice. So you've potentially, for like a 300 points, you can have a unit of 20 of these, and that's what, literally quite a lot of health to churn through. Attacks-wise, they've got 2 attacks each, 4s and 3s, -1 Rend 1 damage, and then Berserker Fury. So each time this unit is, each time a model in this unit is slain by a combat attack, and that model was in combat with the attacking unit, roll a dice on a 5+, inflict a mortal wound after that is involved. That's not bad. Yeah, they're pretty cheap, potentially 150 points, not bad. Yeah, they're not bad, not bad at all. Next up, we have the Volkite Berserkers with the Fire Steel weapons. These are 10 points cheaper. They're 140 points for 10. You've got a slightly less save because you don't have a shield, but screw shields. Shields are for girls. Let's carry more axes. So you got 2 attacks each, 4s and 3s, -1 Rend 1 damage, and then you add 1 to the damage attacks characteristics of this unit's melee weapons if this unit charged. They are going to charge. This is your chaff that you throw in and make the rune dude do his work, because you're on a 6-up save and a 6-up ward. You don't really care. They're 140 points for 10. Just throw them in and let them die, and they will do damage on the way in before they do. But yeah, really cool. But we really do need more infantry units. Next up, we have the Ulrich Hearthguard, and these are 130 points for 5 models. They are your only ranged unit in your entire army, unless you count the Magma Droths with the shooty stuff, and they suck. So they've got a 6-up save, they move 4, the 2 health, control 1. They've got Magma Pipes with the 12-inch range, 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 Rend D3 damage. They can shoot in combat at least, and then they've got a really weak sort of Magma Pike. +1, 3s and 3s, -1 Rend 1 damage. Now, they do have a rule where each time a shooting attack made with this unit scores a critical hit, you subtract 1 from the target's movement characteristic until the start of your next turn. This ability cannot reduce the target unit's modified characteristic below half. That's really crap. Like, it's just, you're needing 6s, you've only got 2 attacks per model, you've only got 5 in a unit, you're not going to be spending 260 points on a unit of 10 of these. They're just woefully, just don't take them. If you're buying Hearthguard Berserkers, don't build Ulrich Hearthguard. Give them close combat weapons and bring Hearthguard Berserkers rather than Hearthguard. They've even lost the bodyguard rule that they used to have, which was kind of made them good, but even then they're not that. So you don't want to be bringing these guys. I really hope Games Workshop do give this dwarf faction an actual ranged unit, because they're dwarfs. They should be able to make decent weapons. But yeah, these guys really do suck badly. Next, we have the Vulcan Flame Seekers, which are 160 points for 9 models. This is the Warcry warband that have survived the cull. So 1 in 9 models is a Kildaroth, and then the champion is a Vulcan Runefather and cannot be replaced as weapons. So they've got a 6-up ward, a save of 5, a movement of 4, a health of 2, and a control of 1. They have their weapons, which is their normal weapons, and it's threes to hit, 3s to wound, -1 rend, 1 damage, anti-monster. And then that one weapon that they get 1 in 9, they have 1 attack, 3s and 3s, no rend, 2 damage, crit mortals, companion, which I think is the little magma droth dog thing that they have. So any combat phase, Droth Masters, pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit to be the target, and then roll a dice on a 3+, subtract 3 from the direct damage characteristics of that target's companion weapons while they're in. It's alright. Like, they're okay, they're not amazing. Beautiful models, though. Absolutely beautiful models. I would definitely use some of these models to represent some of the other heroes. Like the little dude down here with the two axes, that would be a really good Doomseeker if you really wanted to use him as a Doomseeker. And this other guy would be a really good priest or Ulrich Runefather as well if you wanted a more... So I would use these models to represent something else in the army rather than these. But they're not too bad. But, you know, it's a Warcry warband. We're not all like Lumineth Realm Lords to have a broken one. So yeah, this isn't too bad. Okay, Hearthguard Berserkers with Flame Strike Poleaxes. Now we're getting to how you're going to build your army. So you've got the Poleaxes. So these are 140 points for 5 guys. Now, there's going to be a big debate now between Poleaxes and the other version. So you've got a Poleaxe version and you've got the Broadaxes version. And there's basically 20 points difference between the two units. And you're going to basically decide which one is best. So 6-up ward save, 6-up save, movement 4, health of 2, control of 1. You've got your Poleaxes, which is 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage, crit mortals. You have 2 abilities. So while a friendly Hearthguard's infantry hero are wholly within this unit's combat range, both the unit and the hero have a 5-up ward. That's kind of cool. And then Smouldering Braziers. At the end of pick an enemy unit in combat to be the target, and then you inflict mortal wounds on a D3 on a 2+. Cool. Now, let's have a look at the axes, and then you'll choose which one is best. So these guys are the ones with the axes, exactly the same start line. They are 20 points cheaper than the others, and you have your broad axes. 2 attacks each, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage. Now, you don't have any crit mortals or anything like that, and you do still do the ward save with a hero, but you have Fires of Vengeance. So while this unit is within the combat range of any damage-friendly Fyreslayers hero, add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit's melee weapons. Okay, so which is better, axes or polearms? For me, I would probably go for the polearms purely for those crit mortals. Now, and you're going to be doing the Smouldering Braziers, and you're going to be picking off and firing out the mortal wounds. You're going to be paying an extra 20 points for that, which is totally fine. But yeah, I would do that. I would personally go for the mortal damage on the polearms. These are kind of cool. So if you've got the points, they are obviously cheaper, 20 points cheaper per 5. So if you are struggling for points and you want to bring a unit of Hearthguard, these are fine, but the other ones are probably going to pop off more damage, all right? More mortal wound damage at least. So I would probably go for polearms over the axes. And then we have our pizza oven, the Magmic Battle Forge. So it has a 6-up ward, it's a faction terrain piece, it looks like a little pizza oven. It has a 3-up save, no move, no control, and it has 8 of health, and it's cover, impassable, and obscuring. So once per battle in your hero phase, pick a friendly Fyreslayers priest within the terrain features combat range to expend the power of the forge. Heal D3 each friendly Fyreslayers unit on the battlefield. Nice. Battlefield is really good. Once this ability is being used, this terrain feature cannot use the Molten Blessing ability for the rest of the battle. D3 across the board for your army is really kind of cool, and you're going to take it, and it's free, so why not? And then at the start of any turn, pick a friendly Fyreslayers priest that's that within this terrain features combat range, so within 3, and add 1 to the chanting rolls. In addition, the target can use the Unbind ability as if he was a wizard 1. That's not bad. It's a shame that it doesn't pump out magma totems for the other guy. That would be kind of cool if it did. But other than that, that's that. So that's the Fyreslayers. They're okay. They're not amazing. They're not in a really bad place like some factions. But they're not in like a stupidly busted place like Nighthaunt. There's some really fun stuff. If you are an existing Fyreslayers player, that you're not necessarily bad. Fingers crossed that you do get new stuff. They so need new units. They have to have new units. They definitely need like more infantry. Like a decent ranged unit. Some war machines. Like, come on, like give them fire cannons and stuff like that, and like a little naked taxi with flamers on it would be cool. Would be so good. They so need it. It would be really nice that Games Workshop actually updated the range rather than just continually give them new heroes. I think in 3rd edition they got 2 new heroes, which is pretty sad. They definitely need more. So hopefully this edition, fingers crossed, that is it. They've had no new infantry or monster kits since they come out in 1st edition. None. And I'm not including the Warcry warbands because that doesn't count. I'm talking about literal new kits. The infantry units that they have come from 2 boxes. The Volkite and then the Berserkers. And the Berserkers can either be made into the Ulrich Hearthguard or the 2 versions of the Berserkers. So yeah, they definitely need it. But anyway, that's another faction focus done. Slowly getting through them, and we will try to get more done hopefully very, very soon. So if you do like what I'm doing, please keep subscribing. It means so much to me. Thank you very much. And yeah, like the videos, drop a comment which faction you want to see done next, and ring the bell as well so you don't miss anything, and check out the members and Patreon areas. And I will catch you later, everybody. Goodbye for now.